Hello, everybody. Today's lesson objective is going to be students will be able to apply the midpoint formula to find the midpoint between 2 points and find the missing endpoint given the midpoint. Your title for today is underlined. It's midpoint. Let's begin. A line segment, or a part of a line contains 2 endpoints. Okay, so right here we have a line. I'm going to label these points A and B. Okay, so this entire piece from here to here, that's a line. Remember that a line goes infinitely in both directions. Now the segment is bounded by 2 endpoints. So we're going to call this the segment. That's a line segment. It's a piece, it's a segment of the line. We're going to call that line segment AB. And you denote that it's a line segment by putting a little line segment on top, okay? So the coordinate of these endpoints can help us find the midpoint. You need to know the coordinates of the endpoints to find the midpoint, okay? The midpoint is exactly what it sounds like, middle. The midpoint is the point halfway between the 2 endpoints. I'm gonna change my color. I'm gonna put another point right there. I'm gonna call that M. That is the midpoint. It's halfway between the 2 endpoints. Here we have the midpoint formula. Let's zoom in on this. So given 2 endpoints, here's an endpoint here, another endpoint there. We have a midpoint smack dab in the middle, okay? So any point has an x coordinate and a y coordinate, x coordinate, y coordinate. This is our first point, so we label it x1, y1. Second point, 2, 2, okay? Now the formula for midpoint is x1 plus x2 over 2. You're adding them together, cutting it in half. You're basically finding the average, comma, y1 plus y2 over 2, okay? And this is going to give you a answer that looks like this, x comma y. You do this separately, you get an answer for x. You compute that separately, you get an answer for y. And that is going to be the coordinates pair for your midpoint. All right, let's move on to some examples. Example 1. What is the midpoint of the line segment with endpoints 5, -1, and -9, 7? So let's begin by writing over our points. Sorry about that. 5, comma, -9. That's my first point. And my second point is -9, 7. Now I want to label these x, y, x, y. The first number is always x, the second number is always y. And I'm going to put 1, 1, that's my first point. The 1's go together. 2, 2, that's my second point. The 2's go together. I know my formula is m equals x1 plus x2 over 2, big comma, y1 plus y2 over 2, okay? And now it's just basically substitution and putting the numbers in. So my x1 is 5. So 5 plus my x2 is -9. So I'm gonna put that here. So we have 5 plus -9 over 2, comma. Now y1 is -9. Oh, I made a mistake, y'all. I'm so sorry. Let me backtrack. This should be a -1 right here. Let's make sure that's right. Okay, 5, -1, 5, -1, -9, 7, -9, 7. Okay, so that doesn't change anything yet. Let's keep going. Y1 is -1, Y2 is 7, So -1 plus 7 is going to go right here. y1, -1 plus y2, 7 over 2. Okay. Now you can use the calculator to simplify this. Desmos.com/calculate. Or you could do it in your head. 5 plus -9 is going to give me -4 divided by 2 is going to give me -2. And -1 plus 7 is +6 divided by 2 is +3. That is my answer. So if you have endpoints at 5, -1 and -9, 7, the midpoint is going to be at -2, 3. This point is exactly halfway between these two endpoints. Next example, find the midpoint of a given set of points, 7, -5, and 9, -1. That's my x1, my y1, my x2, my y2. Same formula, midpoint equals x1 plus x2 over 2, comma, y1 plus y2 over 2. Substitute, x1 is 7 plus x2 is 9, and divide that over 2. y1 is -5 plus y2 is -1. Divide that over 2. Now use the calculator or do mental math. 7 plus 9 is 16. Divided by 2 gives me 8. So my x coordinate is 8. And for the y coordinate, -5 plus -1 is -6. Divided by 2 is -3. So the midpoint here is going to be 8, -3. Now example 3 is a little different. This one says, find the coordinates of the missing endpoint. We want the missing endpoint this time. If P is the midpoint of NQ, and then it gives you the coordinates for N, 2, 0, and P is 5, 2. So being that this is a little bit tricky, it's good to draw a picture so you can visualize what's going on here. The line segment is NQ, so NQ. We have a midpoint. The midpoint is P. P is the midpoint, that's what it says. P is the midpoint. So draw P in the middle of N and Q, okay? Now put in what they give you. They tell you that N is 2, 0. So this point here is 2, 0. And they tell you that P is 5, 2. So put 5, 2 right here. So what do you notice about this question? In the first two, they gave you the two endpoints and they wanted you to find the midpoint. Here, they give you the midpoint and one endpoint. You have to work backwards and find the missing endpoint. You have to find Q. That's what we're looking for, okay? So I'm gonna split this up into X and Y. And we know that, I'm writing a little big here. We know that X is X1 plus X2 over 2. That's how we get the X coordinate. And we know that Y is Y1 plus Y2 over 2. So this is X1, Y1. This is X2, Y2. And this is the midpoint. So I'm just going to call that X and Y, okay? So X is 5. 5 is going to equal X1, 2, plus, we don't know X2. We don't have anything for X2. So I'm just going to use X2 over 2. Same thing for Y. The midpoint, the Y coordinate of the midpoint is 2, equal to Y1 is 0, plus Y2, because we don't have anything yet for Y2, divided by 2. Now for this, you can use Math Papa, the equation solver, and just simply put in 5 equals 2 plus X over 2 and see what it gives you for X. But to work it out by hand, you would multiply 2 times 5 is 10. 10 equals 2 plus X sub 2. Subtract 2 on both sides and you get 8. That's the X coordinate. On this other side, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 equals 0 plus y2. If you subtract 0 on both sides, you're going to get y2 equals 4. That's going to be your y coordinate. So the answer for this is 8, 4. 8, 4. So if you have an endpoint at 8, 4, and another endpoint at 2, 0, the midpoint has to be 5, 2. I'm going to erase this just so we can see this last question. And this one will be like example 3. Find the coordinates of D if E is 6, -4. If E is 6, -4 is the midpoint of DF, and F has coordinates -5, 3. Draw a picture again. The line segment is DF, so D goes here, F goes here. E is the midpoint. E goes here. The coordinate for E is 6, -4. The coordinates for D is unknown. The coordinates for F is -5, -3. Label your X's and Y's. This is going to be X1, Y1. That's X and that's Y because that's the midpoint. That's X2 and that's Y2 because that's the second point. So if X equals X1 plus Y1 over 2, 6 equals X1, we don't know X1, plus, ooh, I made a mistake right here again. I'm messing up today, y'all. X's go together in the formula, not XY, it's not slope. X1 plus X2, okay. So X2 is -5 over 2. Multiply 2 times 6, you get 12 equals X1 plus -5. Add 5 on both sides. X is going to equal 17. That's just the X coordinate. Now to find the Y coordinate, Y equals Y1 plus Y2 over 2. -4 equals Y1 plus Y2 is -3 over 2. Multiply both sides by 2, we get -8 equals Y1 plus -3. Add 3 to both sides because that's the inverse of -3. And we get, I'm going to put it right here, we get -5 equal to Y1. So that means that my other endpoint, the answer is 17, -5. Okay, I saved the best for last. The good news is there's a website that will calculate this for you so you can check your answers, okay? Write this in your notes. It's called Omni Calculator. Omni Calculator. It's something like Desmos and MathPapa. It's another calculator page. But we're gonna go to omnicalculator.com/math/midpoint. Okay, omnicalculator.com/math/midpoint. That website is pinned in your Google Classroom. Let's go and see what that looks like. All right, so when you open up this page, it's gonna look like this. So it's gonna give you some options here. You could put in the first point coordinates, that's your X1, your Y1. You could put in the second point coordinates, that's your X2 and your Y2, or you could put in the midpoint, that's the X and the Y, okay? So let's go back to example 1 real quick. In example 1, the points were 5, -1, and -9, 7. And the answer we got was -2, 3. Let's check that. So let's put in the x1, y1, the x2, y2, the first point and the second point. X1 was 5, y1 was -1. That first point was 5, -1. The second point that they gave us was -9, 7. So -9, 7. And we said the answer we got was -2, 3. Scroll down. That's what you get, -2, 3. Once, if you put in any two of these three things, the third one is going to automatically populate, okay? You can press this button here to clear it out. This button right here. That little circle with the arrow, that's going to like reset everything. All right, so now let's move on to example 3. Remember, let's go back to it real quick. Remember in example 3, they didn't give you the midpoint. They gave you the midpoint, but they didn't give you one of the endpoints, okay? They told us that the endpoint is 2, 0, and the midpoint is 5, 2. So I'm going to use 2, 0 for my x1 and y1. So my first point is 2, 0, and my midpoint was 5, 2. So I'm not going to put that here. That's not where that goes. That says second point. We don't know the second point. We're looking for it. They gave us the midpoint. So I'm going to put that there, 5, 2. And look, it just automatically populates. It gave me 8, 4. Let's check back to see if that's what we got. And it is. We did get 8, 4. Okay? So again, use this math calculator to check your answers. You should not have any wrong answers today because Omni Calculator can do it for you. Thanks for listening. Good luck on your assignment. Have a great day.